Aloha! Thank you for tuning in to episode number 55. My name is Christina Estrada, partner of Booyah Marketing, where we have deeper connections. Today, our returning honored guest is Suzanne Kellner-Zinck with 30 plus years of experience working in mental health, specializing in holistic healing through hypnosis, helping clients quickly address the root causes of emotional illness when traditional mental health approaches have failed. Public speaker, author, podcaster, a mover and a shaker, setting souls free to live their purpose on purpose. How are you, Suzanne?
Very well. Very lovely to see you again, Christina.
Yes, thank you. So what are SSRI?
Great question. It stands for serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which are a form of antidepressants that I think were developed in the 1980s. I don't remember which drug company came out with Prozac. I believe that was the first one. But it's a very interesting story nonetheless. First of all, what we need to understand is that the company that came up with this concept of serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or the people who, for marketing purposes, so they could sell more drugs, came up with this concept of brain chemistry imbalance, quote unquote. And I know that when I was diagnosed with manic depression, that was before bipolar was a thing, that is what they told me was the problem. Well, it's all a bunch of bullshit, has nothing to do with reality at all. There's no chemical that you're going to take from any pharmaceutical company that is going to, shall we say, balance your chemistry. Your chemistry in your brain is much more complicated than this situation, to say the least. And I can also tell you, after researching this stuff, I don't know, for years and years and years, I went back to school in 2017 and I started in psychology. It was so boring. Oh my God, it was so boring. There wasn't anything they could teach me I hadn't already learned after all the years I've been in practice, both in conventional psychiatry, psychology, and then in terms of nursing school, which I dropped out of, and then in terms of really just practical experience working with my clients in hypnosis. I mean, that's where you really learn the most. Listening to your clients is something these people don't know how to do. But getting back to the SSRIs, the real issue is that it was a marketing ploy to sell millions and millions and billions of dollars of this toxic chemical. Now, this is a thing. I wrote a paper for my public policy degree, which was a specialization in medical sociology. Medical sociology is all about the study how groups interact together socioeconomically, in terms of racial stuff, in terms of tribalism, whatever. All the different ways we can think about how groups interact and don't interact so well from a sociological point of view. And I can tell you that my last paper, my capstone paper, that's what they call it, was on what makes a mass shooter a mass shooter. Because I really wanted to know the answer to this question. And interestingly enough, the professor I had for this particular course wanted to know too, because she was a mental health provider. And she said, I'm very interested in your research on this. Do a good job on it. And what I found out was that the 23 mass shooters at that time, all in their 20s, all had been on some kind of psychotropic medication, most often serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Not always. Some of them are on amphetamines because they were diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, which is a whole other story of bullshit, but I'll get into that another day. And frankly, there's an issue here because we know that people in their teens and in their 20s have this paradoxical effect. It's supposed to make them not depressed, but in case it's like this, where you have mass shooting, it's really anger. Anger is a form of depression, people. It's depression focused outside. Sadness is when depression's focused inside. All right. So we have these very depressed people. They feel all alone, especially when you look at the transsexuals who did this kind of stuff. They're very alone and they're not understood and they have a lot of anger to people. What the hell do you think is going to happen if you give them these drugs that give them homicidal thoughts? The black box warning is at the pharmaceuticals companies. I mean, like the pharmacies. They had to put this black box warning on it because it became so evident that this is a problem with these kids of this age taking this crap. And yet they're still giving out like they're candy.
Wow.
However, RFK Jr., thank God, is going to stop this shit from happening. And hopefully he'll get the commercials off of TV for all pharmaceuticals because it's absolutely ridiculous that anyone should have any access to medications where you have to have a license to prescribe them. The doctors can't even read the information in these stupid journals to understand what's going on with the drugs, because the drug companies actually extort their way into, well, maybe it's the opposite of extortion. I don't know what the hell you would call it, but there's been 2 cases that I know of that I found through my research with the Lancet Journal out of Great Britain, and I believe it was the New England Journal of Medicine. 2 of the most, I don't know, they have the highest reputation until this shit happened. They took money to print articles from Big Pharma, $400,000 each. And these studies did not last long enough. They weren't real. They were biased. They had taken out what you consider the participants or the volunteers in the studies when they didn't show the results that they wanted to show. And they were very bogus in terms of how they reported the actual statistics that they saw, because there's a lot of ways that you can talk about statistics to make them say whatever the hell you want, even though it's not really there if you actually know how to read them. But most people don't know how to read them, to mention the fact that most doctors do not have the time to read the shit anyway, because it's very, 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 I don't know. They use this verbiage that is very vacuous and, shall we say, hard to understand. They do it quite on purpose. So other than that, we don't have a problem, other than the fact that we have 2 researchers. I believe they're both psychologists. Dr. Irvin Kirsch, I found his research many, many moons ago, who was doing placebo studies. So he was studying placebo effect and used SSRIs as the thing to show placebo effect, to better understand what the placebo effect is. Nocebo effect is actually when someone has negative effects because they believe negatively about the thing that they're doing with the drugs or whatever. And a placebo is when you believe everything's going to work out fine, but yet you're given a sugar candy instead of a drug. But in this case, they used the SSRIs to prove placebo effect, okay? And what they found was, in, I don't know, 30 years of research, Dr. Irvin Kirsch out of Harvard University and Dr. Walter Brown out of Brown University replicated the research. This is how we know the research is true when it can be replicated. It doesn't happen often, but it happened in this case. Only 30% of the people had positive effect of any kind. That means it was a failure 70% of the time, people. 70% failure rate, and they're still handing the shit out to people.
So what does work?
Hypnosis.
And why does it work?
Because I'm not dealing with trying to hide the symptoms. What I'm dealing with is the reason why the depressed symptomology presents, as is true with any kind of mental health issue that I can help. I can't work with people with full-blown personality disorders, and I certainly can't help anyone decrease their psychosis, but I've worked enough with psychotic people, people who have psychotic events. When I was working contemporary psychiatry many, many moons ago, that I know how to work with them and I understand the metaphors and stuff. No other hypnotist should really be screwing around these people because they have no clue and they can cause a lot of problems. That being said, I'm able to go into the part of the brain that actually needs to be reframed, right? When the therapist goes in there to talk to the patients, they're talking to the prefrontal cortex. This is where you're reasoning, where you're judging, where you're finding rationalizations for why it is that you can't do the things that your psychologist, psychiatrist is trying to get you to do in order to make your life easier. It's really hard. Plus, you have to consciously think about it as you're doing it. Cognitive behavioral therapy, you have to be in the moment and have it on your mind that you need to make this change when these things happen. That's hard. That's very hard to do. What I do is I go into the amygdala of the brain where we have our emotions reside. They're all over the brain really, but the amygdala is really where a lot of this all resides. And also the hippocampus, where our very imperfect memories reside. And if you're a child and you have a memory from your child, you're not able to reason, rationalize, or judge anyway. So we're bypassing all of that stuff. And what happens is they're able to really understand what happened. And the way that I do my work is I bring them to their superconscious mind, which is what Carl Jung would call the collective unconscious, where they're involved with their divine. And the divine is Jesus, God, creator, universe, nature. It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever it is for them is perfectly great, because I'm meeting them in terms of the way that they view their world. That's what we're supposed to do, meet them where they're at. And then when they're able to do that, they can tell me what they need to have done. Especially they start feeling physiological pains and aches, and I ask them, go ask Jesus what's going on there. What do we need to clear, and ask him what we got to do to clear it, because there's a reason why it's there, so let's figure it out. So they'll tell me, and then pronto we're able to get rid of it, like right there.
Wow. Okay.
And that's how this stuff works. It works magically well. if you know how to work it. There's a lot of people out there who do a weekend of classes, but the problem is you can learn how to put someone in hypnosis in a weekend. You do not know how to work it. You wouldn't want to doing brain surgery with you because they went to a bunch of classes and Amanda had a little bit of experience. You want someone who's really worked with this stuff and really understands the ins and outs. And because I have the medical, psychiatric, psychological, as well as hypnosis, I have a lot to bring to bear in terms of how I work with my clients. And if I don't have the ability to help them, I send them integrative functional doctors to do the testing that they can do and know how to read and give them the supplements to whatever they need, because a lot of these problems are not even psychological, they're physiological. It's about damn time the mental health people got that through their damn heads, learn the shit so they can actually help their patients by referring them to people who can. That's what I have to say on it.
So how do people get a hold of you?
The email will be in the, what do you call it? What do you call it down there?
The description box.
Yes, in the description box. Suzanne at Dawning Visions. But when you write me, please, in the subject line, asterisk, 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 subject of what you want to contact me for. And in the email, tell me what you want help with, because I'm not a mind reader. I don't want to be. That's way too much responsibility when things go bad in people's lives. I don't want that. So that's what I need. And also, we have the website, dawningvisions.com. Tons of information on all this stuff. Tons of web blogs and stories and case histories and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, go in there. dawningvisions.com. She'll have that in there and that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, mahalo nui loa, Suzanne, for your time. Any parting words you would like to say to the viewers?
Stop believing the bullshit they tell you as fact. You need to know the facts. You need to do the research yourself and find the facts. And if you don't know how to do that, go find someone who knows, because they're educated people and they know. Someone you can trust to be real with you.
Thank you, thank you. So mahalo, I'll put Suzanne's information down below in the description box. Please click the subscribe, notification, and thumbs up. If you would like to donate to the channel, we appreciate it. It helps us build our content. My name is Christina Estrada, partner of Booyah Marketing. A hui ho. Until we meet again.